How's it going, everyone? So in this video, I wanted to kind of work on this Next.js project I have that's using Next.js. I don't know why I just said Next.js twice. Using next-auth, it's using Next, it's using Tailwind, it's using tRPC. And one thing that's kind of bothering me is that you can't really run this application locally unless you have the proper .env file set up to like connect to a real Google like authentication endpoint. So I wanted to figure out if there's a way to easily like mock out the next-auth stuff. Throughout the application here, I call get session a couple times, I believe. Actually, I'm not sure if I call get session. I think I call use session. So you'll see in the front end a couple places I call use session, and that's going to return the actual like cookie that keeps track of my session. And I guess I'm wondering if there's an easy way to like allow this to return real data, or return like a mocked out piece of data when I have it turned on as like a flag or something. I didn't really plan for this video, so I'm just going to try to add some features and see how it goes. Let me just show you. So like in order to log in and see like a logged in state of my UI, I actually have to go and like sign in with Google and then click on an account and then actually have my session set that way, which is not optimal because how do you work on this project if you don't have internet? How do you work on this project if you don't want to go through and set up Google app IDs and secret keys and stuff? So let's try to figure out how to do this. I'm going to go ahead and figure out where in the application. I know I do it in the header. That's like the main area where I call use session. And I believe on some of my backend endpoints, I'm using next-auth to like grab the session. But one thing that you can do in your application is instead of importing like next-auth directly here, it might make more sense to like have this live in a utils or a lib. I might just call it lib. I'll say libs, and then I'll say use session.js. And I'm going to basically have this thing export a method called use session. So export const use session is a function like so. And what this function needs to do is it needs to basically kind of emulate the same behavior as this hook that we're bringing in, like so. But if we are local, so I'm going to say if process.env dot how do I want to do this? I'll just say like mock next auth. If that's set, do something, otherwise do something else. And I'll figure out a better name for this. I'm just trying to prototype something real quick. I have to alias this probably. Use session as use next auth session. So if we are not mocking it out, I want to just go ahead and return this function. Okay. But if we do decide to mock it out, I'm just going to return like a hard-coded session. And I don't remember like what is on the session, so I'd have to look at this data here, which if I hover over this, it tells me data and status. So I probably need to return something like data and status. I don't know what those would be set to, but inside of data, typically there's like user, I believe. So let's see where I'm using session. I use it here, session data user. So session data user, and I'm just going to mock out this data for right now and make it actually have like an ID. I don't know what the ID should be, to be honest. I have an ID, a role, a name, an email, an image. ID, a role, a name, an email, and then an image. I'll just put null for the image. Email could be like testing@gmail.com or example.com could work as well. Name, I'll put Rick James. Role, I'll put teacher. And ID, I'm going to put 1. The idea is that now anywhere in my application, I should probably import from this lib directory so that I'm not coupling all my components directly to how next-auth is kind of returning their hook. So I'm going to delete this, and I'm going to import this use session from my custom little lib that I just created. And I'll probably have to do some more stuff here to like get this stuff to work, because really session should have, what should session return? What does this return? Oh, so I probably need to actually have this be a function that returns data if I wanted to keep it a little bit more consistent maybe. Let me try doing that. When you call use session, you know, I might be kind of messing this up. When I call use session for my components, it either returns this hard-coded data, or I probably need to call this. But it can't be called conditionally, which that sucks. Is this actual like a lint error? I wonder if this actually crashed my app or if this is just like a TypeScript lint error. I think it's just like a lint error. All right, so the idea is if I, in the header, if I were to print out what session is, it's probably going to return null or undefined, right? Unauthenticated. I'm actually going to change this a little bit, and this is going to be session authenticated. By the way, I mean, like I said, I didn't prepare for this video, so I'm kind of jumping all over the place. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop my next app. And by the way, if someone knows a better way to do this, like let me know. But I'm going to stop my next app, and then I'm going to go ahead and just turn this to true. So true npm run dev. That should hopefully set that. I don't know if I need to actually go to my .env and set that up. But now when I refresh my page, it crashed. I don't know if it's actually getting here. So let's verify that we're getting here. We are here. Is a good way to kind of confirm that. Go ahead and refresh the page. And did it print out we are here anywhere? It did not. Let me just print this out as well. I don't know why my app's like crashing. It's kind of weird. Like crashing for unrelated issues. Text content does not match server rendered HTML. So this is still printing out undefined. I think it's because you actually have to say like next app mock next-auth. There's probably a much better way to do this. I'm going to go ahead and stop that. I'm going to set this to true and rerun that and see what happens. Honestly, I should probably just go to my .env and do that here, or do that in the .env file. Is that actually working? I think it's still not working. So anyway, let me just go to my .env and I'll add it in there. Now I will say, because this is like a public environment variable, I believe we have to like set it somewhere. So next public env variables. I think it's called next public. Expose environment variables to the browser by prefixing. So I'm going to go ahead and just say next public mock next auth equals true. And I'm going to go ahead and just check for that here and see if I can get this to work. npm run dev. Go ahead and refresh this page. And we should see the header actually display something else if this works. Like we should see it display dashboard and other stuff. There we go. So this whole video, what I was trying to do is like, as a developer, I don't want to have to log in to verify like in a login state. So one way you can do that is by having some type of environment variable where I could simply just save this, restart, and then after a second, when this is fully running, that'll take me back to the logged out state. This isn't the most optimal approach. I'd rather mock out the login endpoint and like have a mock login. I don't know why this stuff keeps failing. Let me try doing an npm install real quick. I do believe this is another method we should probably mock out too, because this is coming from like next-auth as well, which isn't really good. So I'm going to go ahead and pull in this same method from that libs. In fact, I'll make a new one. Let me just call this next-auth maybe. No, whatever. I'm changing my mind so much. Let me just go ahead and make a function here. I could have just made like a next-auth file and have those two methods in there, but let's just do this. We're going to do a similar approach where if we are running locally, we're going to return something else that's mocked out. And I'll probably think about this again and make another video in the future when I think of about a better way, or when I Google around if other people have done this in a better way. But the idea is we don't want to have like, I kind of already mentioned it. We don't want to force people to have to like connect to a real Gmail account just to do this. Where are we doing this? So dashboard, I think that's where we pull in session. That comes from for here, and this comes over there. I'm gonna go ahead and pull this in. And we're going to call it here, which it needs all these things. So we're going to have to basically take in rec, res, and auth options. So rec, res, and auth options. That has to be passed into rec, res, auth options. I'm not going to type them with TypeScript just yet. And I'm going to go ahead and just alias this to get server session, like so. And I think it's going to be the same data. Like it's going to return the same type of data from the backend if the session is set. So it should be session, user, enroll. Okay, so it's a little bit different for this method. We don't have data, just session. So I need to get rid of data and status like that. But it should be the same user with the same structure as the other one. So hopefully that allows my app to like run and not just crash. Let's see what happens. Next public. See, I don't know if I'd have access to next public mock here. So I probably need to print this out and see what happens. In fact, I don't know if I'm even on the dashboard. Let me go to the dashboard page. I might be trying to check something that hasn't even been set up yet. All right. So is this thing printing out next public mock auth? Like that's not even printing anywhere. Oh, because I haven't imported it. So going back to this dashboard file where we're doing like this little authentication check, I'm going to go ahead and import that same method, but from that libs directory. And then I don't know if I need to restart my API. I don't think I do. Let me refresh this page and see what happens. All right, next public mock next auth is false. And that's what I have it set to in my environment variable. I'm going to set it back to, actually, I'm kind of wondering why it's still showing the classroom stuff up here, because that should have been reset. So let me restart the server completely. And I would think that Rick James should no longer be set because I don't have this thing set to, oh, I know what I'm doing wrong. So when you're dealing with environment variables, like you need to actually check, like if this thing is set to something specific, like true, then you'd want to do the logic. In fact, I could probably just leave that off, like not even define it, comment it out. That's probably a better approach. I'm gonna go ahead and comment it out, and I believe this, I can just keep it like this. All right, so this is actually logged in with the real like Google account here. You see my actual image came up, but then I can go to my env, I can uncomment this. I have to restart the server, which kind of sucks. So I need to figure out a better way to like achieve this. And again, if you know, like leave a comment. I'm probably just wasting time, but I guess I wanted to show you like, this is why you don't always want to just import stuff directly from the third-party library in your components. It's useful to have a libs directory that you import your things and you just kind of use a facade pattern to wrap those, especially if you ever need to like mock them out locally like this. Super useful. I might find a better way to do this. So now it shows up Rick James, and now as I click around, like it, you know, I actually get like the real data. Can I actually create a classroom with Rick James though? I guess I'm curious, like what is this adding a classroom to? Because when I call the create classroom router and I say create classroom, I believe it's getting my session here and getting my user ID. So I should probably load up Prisma Studio, npx Prisma Studio, and I should probably look at my users. Because right now I don't have a Rick James user. That's one thing that's kind of lost with my little mocking out thing that's going on. So I probably need to think of a better way to do that, where I need to actually like create the user. Because I'm making classrooms. Let me go back to the classrooms one. How is this even working? Let me make a classroom called like Hello World. save that and go back to Prisma and refresh. Hello world comes back, but the user ID is set to this, which is strange because I totally mocked that out to be 1. So I don't know how that's getting persisted. I probably need to keep going through. There's probably another place where we're like grabbing out the auth. Let's see, is this it? Auth router context. Let me go to the context real quick. Git server session. Yeah, so again, we're loading in next-auth here, which we should probably load that in from not next-auth. Am I doing this a bunch of places? I have restricted API, which I don't think I even use. Let me get rid of that. I don't think we use that. We do it here in the header test, which is fine. We do it here. We do it in the welcome page for the Git server side props. Yeah, so basically anywhere we're doing this, like I need to make sure I import it from libs instead. Same thing with this one. I need to reevaluate if we even need to call this unstable method. It seems weird that we're calling a method that's called unstable. Oh, that one I need to keep that in there. What's this one? Context. Delete this. Go ahead and get server side session. All right, let's try it again. I'm gonna go ahead and just refresh the page real quick and make sure that. Okay, so now it's crashing because it's probably trying to get the classrooms for ID of 1, but I don't have a user of ID of 1. Yeah, I can't find 1. So now, like, in order for this to work, I'd have to either, let me go to my libs real quick. I need to either change this ID to be like an existing user ID, like so. And over here, I probably need to do it. This is one thing I don't like about Next. It's like you have to keep in mind that like some of your stuff is only supposed to run on the back end and you cannot import it on your front end or it just crashes. And I think that's actually what we're seeing here. So by creating this next-auth file and like exporting this, like we can't use this on the back end or vice versa. We can't use this on the front end. So let me just delete that. I'm going to go back and just make like a mock user inside this one. So export const mock user is this. And I'm going to go ahead and just try to use that in both places. Like so. Over here, same idea, mock user. And then we have to go back anywhere we do libs of next-auth. I'm going to have to go back and delete that and just make sure I import the right thing. This is a mess. I'm so sorry, y'all. This video is just not good. But these are the things you deal with as you're developing. Like half the time, you don't truly know what you're trying to do. Like you have a fuzzy goal with what you're trying to do, but you don't have a clear 100% path to get there. And so you kind of stumble around and like refactor and move stuff around until you get it to work the way you want it to work. And that's kind of what we're doing right now. All right, now it's saying mock user is not defined. So I have to go to libs, go to that use session. I probably just need to import this one, save it. And it's still complaining about V8. What the heck's going on? Unstable Git server side props. Okay, it's still complaining because I'm importing. Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm just gonna do this. Mock user.ts. It's because I'm importing this file in the other file and it crashes. So I'm going to pull that out to a separate file. Both of these are going to import from that mock users file. And that, I hope, keep my fingers crossed, that should fix the issue. Probably just made that way too complicated. But now the point to that was I'm kind of like mocked out, logged in as this other user. And I could go here and change, like if I wanted to go to users like this, and I added a new record. I'll say Rick James, email is testing@example.com. And I'll make the image the same here, just paste that in. And then I'll make that a teacher. And I'm gonna go ahead and create it. I should get an ID. And I'm going to go ahead and go to my mock user. I'm going to replace that ID. Maybe make this consistent with my backend. But now the point I'm making, which I've failed to make, is now I'm logged in as Rick James. He has no classrooms. I can create one called like JavaScript classroom. Click create. And now if I go to my classrooms, we have one that is assigned to Rick James. All right, so it's a kind of a hacky workaround way to like allow my app to work without being connected to the Google authentication at all. I'm going to rethink this because I don't think this is the best approach. I think there's probably better ways I can do it. And I guarantee you someone watching this video will probably let me know a better way to do it. But I'm going to go ahead and just save this because I think if other people were to work on this project, I shouldn't have to keep sending them my Google client ID and client secret, right? They should be able to run this locally and they should be able to toggle true or false between like, or sorry, comment this out if they want to be like authenticated with Rick James and uncomment it if they don't want to be, you know what I'm trying to say. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and commit this. I'll just say like adding the ability to run this app without a real Google client ID and secret. That's one thing that you have to kind of focus on is like everything should be able to run offline. You should be able to develop on your application offline. And the more you have like all this stuff hard coded and required to run, the more difficult it is to work on your project. So yeah, I should probably also put that in the README or something. But I don't know, I need to work on it. Anyway, thanks for watching. Have a good day and happy coding.